So today we are taking a look at Omnisend. So Omnisend are a Lithuanian company. I believe they have an office here in London, but they're a marketing automation platform primarily aimed at e-commerce companies. So similar to something like Klaviyo, the idea being that you connect this platform to your e-commerce software, whether that's Shopify, Magento, WooCommerce, BigCommerce, and then you have this kind of active data stream where every single action that your customers take on your store, that's fed into this platform, and then you can use that data to send emails, to send SMS, push notifications, whatever you like. So we're going to be jumping into the platform today, creating an account, walking through some of the features, and I will, where possible, kind of talk about maybe some of the differences against Klaviyo, because if you're looking at Omnisend, it's likely you're also thinking about maybe a platform like that as well, as there are quite a lot of similarities. So first I'll touch on pricing. Omnisend, I think generally what you find with these sort of e-commerce focused email marketing tools is they do tend to be a little bit more expensive than the generic platforms. So compared to things like ActiveCampaign, MailerLite, Constant Contact, they are a bit more expensive, and you are paying for that sort of deep integration where you get a lot of that data that you can sort of use as triggers. However, I would say Omnisend are on the more affordable end. There's not a huge amount of difference in it. When we tested Klaviyo a few days ago, I think we sort of worked out that generally, I think Omnisend is a little bit more affordable. At I think 50,000 contacts, I think it was about $100 a month less, but there's not a huge amount in it. So my recommendation straight away would be probably to start a trial with a few of these options and just kind of work out which one is right for you. But with that said, we will jump into the platform and take a quick look. Okay, so we're inside Omnisend. Sign up was really quick and easy. There was no credit card required, which was nice. The only thing I will say is that until you connect your e-commerce site with Omnisend, there's not an awful lot you can do in the platform. So just make sure that when you do sign up, that you have your kind of URLs and any API keys that you need ready, as that will kind of allow you to sort of explore some of the features that we are about to look at. So I've connected this to just a test Shopify store. There's very little data in that, but just so that we can kind of start to see a few bits and pieces. So the first thing I'll say is that I really like the dashboard of Omnisend, particularly the overview page here. So it's really nice, I think, to be able to sort of show the revenue that Omnisend is generating you and how much revenue is coming from campaigns, from automations. I think that kind of attribution is really nice. A lot of other email marketing platforms that we test, I think, place too much emphasis on reporting data about the specific email marketing campaigns, so open rates, click-through rates. That stuff doesn't really matter. Like, frankly, it's helpful to have that stuff when you're thinking about optimization, but I really like, particularly in an e-commerce context, that the focus here is all on how do these campaigns impact the bottom line revenue. So this is really nice. I really like they've kind of put this front and center. We do have this kind of email and list specific information down here, which is nice. And then live view, obviously we don't have any events going into Omnisend at this point, but again, that's quite nice. Yeah, nice to sort of be able to see that. So we'll jump into campaigns. As always, the thing that I'm really kind of looking for here, first is to kind of get a bit of a gauge on the quality of the templates. And then secondly, to get a bit of a feel for the visual editor, how easy it's going to be, are there any bugs, that sort of stuff. So I'm just going to start with a simple email campaign, and then I might come back and have a look at SMS and push notifications. So just jumping in here now, let's just give this a bit of dummy data so that it lets us go on. One thing I do quite like about Omnisend, and when we reviewed this last year was a really kind of nice touch, is they do have quite deep integrations with different advertising platforms. So quite nice that you can sort of build Facebook custom audiences. I believe last year when we tested it, we were able to connect it to Google Ads as well. So there's quite a strong integration. If you are doing retargeting, you've got quite a few options. So my first impression looking at these templates is meh. These look pretty mediocre, if I'm honest. This is an area where I think Klaviyo is a lot stronger. Klaviyo's templates are beautiful. They You do not need a designer to come in with Klaviyo. These look very generic. It doesn't look like design quality doesn't look particularly great. I would probably, in our situation, if we were to use Omnisend, we would probably want our designer to come and create some custom templates. But with that said, we'll jump into one and have a bit of a play around with the editor. So this feels pretty familiar. I think virtually any email marketing platform you use, they pretty much all have this kind of fairly standard WYSIWYG editor. So everything I think is drag and drop. You can click on it and Black Thursday, there we go. The only thing I would say that I don't particularly like about this is this left-hand column feels a little bit, I quite like when the platforms just have the sort of the list that you're seeing here directly in the left and then kind of grouped. It's a personal preference, but I don't particularly love this kind of left-hand side. It makes it a bit difficult to actually sort of get a full understanding of all of the different blocks that we can use in the email. But what I do like is that given that Omnisend is an e-commerce specific marketing automation platform, it's nice that we have a few blocks here that are kind of purpose-built for e-commerce. That might sound like, well, of course, but when we've looked at some of the other e-commerce platforms, one thing I was actually really underwhelmed about with Klaviyo is they don't really have any. I think they have one. You can pull in a block of products, which similar to this, so just a kind of list of products. You can do that on Klaviyo. But it's nice we've got things here like we've got discount codes. I think there is a way to do discount codes, but it's not very, very obvious. And then I think we'll have a look at Wheel of Fortunes a bit later when we look at forms. There's just a few more options here that are kind of clearly purpose-built for e-commerce marketers. We've got a lot of different sort of layouts for product listings, for images. So this generally just looks like something that if you're running, what you'd expect if you were kind of an e-commerce email marketer. So in general, I think there's some things that I think could be improved here, but it's not bad. It's sort of, yeah, it's okay. It's good enough. And I'm curious if we can do some sort of advanced stuff. So can we do conditional content? I'm not seeing anything. I'd be surprised if we can't though. That feels like, so conditional content being show one block of content to one set of people and a different block to another. So I'm not immediately, I'll try it on a text block because that's kind of more typically where you would do it. There's nothing here down the right, and it doesn't look like any of these icons. So that's a little bit of a letdown. I would, certainly for our email marketing, that's something that we use quite a lot and it has quite a big impact on improving personalization. So that's a bit of a shame if that isn't there. If they do that, please let me know in the comments. And yeah, I will I will add a card saying that it is offered, but at least for now I can't find that. Visibility on different devices, I believe that was there. So here we go, visibility on devices. So we can have mobile only, desktop only. Great, that's kind of table stakes, but pretty important. Particularly if you've got a pretty image heavy email going on. So my general impression with this is it's okay. There's no kind of major issues, but I would have liked to have seen a few more options on the optimization side of things. So that's a bit of a shame. Let's jump over to, yeah, okay, let's go to audience now. So segments, what's quite nice is we've got a lot of different pre-built segments in Omnisend, and these do all kind of look like ones that we would want to set up. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to actually run an import first, add some contacts. So let's just do a quick file import, and I've got a list of 20 contacts. I just want to see how these import. So interestingly, it has not picked up the name. And slightly annoyingly, where I've got a column with first name and last name in, it's not, I'm not able to say first and last name. I'm going to have to go back to my spreadsheet and break that into two columns. Tools like ActiveCampaign have automatically kind of detected it and split them out, which just, it's one of those little things that just helps to sort of save a bit of time, but certainly not a deal breaker. So we don't I'm surprised we don't have a pre-built field here for company. So I'm just going to create one here. Let's go next. We'll just give them a tag. And yeah, I'll create a segment for those contacts. So that's also interesting. It's found 21 contacts. There's actually only 20. So I think this is going to accidentally import the header, although no, it looks like it's done 20. So that's correct. Perfect. So if I go into any single contacts view, what am I seeing? So I'm getting all the kind of general user information. We would then see their history, so every order they've made, what products they've bought, and then the campaign data, so what emails, SMS, push notifications they've seen here. So generally this is nice. I do like with Omnisend that everything is quite clean. It's quite easy to sort of find your way around. It just sometimes feels like there's a little bit lacking when we compare it to some of the other platforms. And like, for example, going back to Klaviyo give you a lot more data on sort of, they do a really nice job actually with this view of kind of what the interaction has been in the last 30 days versus all times. You can start to kind of see trends like, is this contact becoming less engaged, more engaged? So it's obviously we're not seeing any data here. I would ideally have liked to see a sort of an empty state so I can picture how this would look in once it's got data. But again, that's if you were setting this up in a sort of real situation, you would get that data eventually. So just going back to segments, I just want to kind of take a look at this, just see what I've got here. So it's just mapped all the emails that I imported to that segment. Customer breakdown. So we've got, okay, this is really nice. So to give credit where it's due, I think the reporting functionality in Omnisend is excellent. Not just the data they output in their platform, but the data visualization. It's been really kind of considered, and I think ultimately it just makes it really kind of helpful to get a picture of what's going on and what's working, what's not. So I'm a big fan of this. I think this is really nice. It's nice that we've kind of broken these out into segments, and we can sort of presumably view deeper reports on those different segments. But yeah, otherwise that all seems pretty much as I'd expect it to be. But yeah, really good. So we'll jump over to automations. So I'm going to first maybe, I just want to delete this and take a look at some of the pre-built ones if possible. And then, yeah, okay. So Omnisend wants you to be able to build an automation, you need to first connect your shop platform, and then the pre-built automation sequences that you see here are personalized to you based on the platform you set up. So I've connected Shopify. What you're seeing here are the sort of Shopify specific ones. They're going to be pretty similar regardless of what platform you set up, but they are kind of a little bit personalized based on the triggers from your e-commerce platform. So these are all really nice. What I love about the idea of, as an e-commerce business, using an e-commerce specific automation platform is that this is where it really kind of comes to life. Reporting as well, but I think, you know, if you use something like HubSpot or ActiveCampaign, when you look at the pre-built automation sequences, the recipes, I think they call them, you know, if you're an e-commerce company, you're lucky if you see maybe 2 or 3 that are sort of specifically around things like abandoned carts and increasing average number of products purchased. It's not very kind of focused around e-commerce. Whereas here you can see we have a ton of options, which serves 2 purposes. Firstly, it saves you a huge amount of time because you don't need to kind of build these from scratch. You can start off with the template and build on it. Secondly, it serves as inspiration. If you're kind of trying to think about like, how might we optimize our email marketing? How might we improve revenue from this channel? You've got a lot of sort of options here that even if it's not quite right for you, you can use it as inspiration to sort of find what is right. So what I'm going to do is create a custom one just so we can see from scratch and sort of, in fact, we can kind of have a quick look at one of these pre-built ones, just kind of get a feel for the flow. But then I'm going to jump back and create a custom one. So as with pretty much every automation sequence builder, we have to start with a trigger. So Again, this is going to be dependent on the e-commerce platform you set up, but you can see we've got a pretty nice kind of array of e-commerce centric triggers. So when someone starts checkout, when they add a product to cart, place an order, sign up, view page, view product, etc. So I'm just going to say when they view a certain product. We can segment down here as well. We can sort of say like only if it's product X or in country Y. But I'm just going to leave it there and then start to add some conditions and actions. Now, the first thing I'll kind of point out, the elephant in the room here, is this is quite different to a lot of other automation builders. Not massively so, but subtly it's a little bit different. I like that we've got the reporting sort of directly on the automation sequence and that it's kind of focused around a goal. This is quite nice. We've got this sort of like drag and drop builder. I feel like this is probably not going to be right for everyone, but personally, I quite like. I also like that they've just done it different. A lot of the automation platforms are sort of all converging on roughly like the same style of builder. I like that Omnisend have sort of taken a slightly different approach here. In terms of the actions that we've got, they're all pretty standard, so we can add delays. Hopefully I can sort of say like, wait until a specific, no, it doesn't look like it actually. So normally with these, you can also say things like wait until the 25th of December. Oh, there we go. So we can say a specific time. No, so that's a specific time of day. Yeah, so interesting. It doesn't look like we can say wait until a specific day. I'm just going to try and see if I can do this with a condition. It doesn't look like it. So that's kind of immediately, if you wanted to do like Black Friday automation flow, you would presumably have to sort of create it or set it live the week before. Again, that's not true. Let me know in the comments. But I can't sort of work out from here how we would do that. But we do have delays. We can tag contacts and create splits in the automation. One thing that I don't particularly like about Omnisend is that, in my view, the A/B testing feature is not really A/B testing. It's a way to kind of split people down different paths. We can say 20% go here, 80% go here, but there's no sort of sense that I can have a specific goal to this test. If in a platform like ClickFunnels or ActiveCampaign, I can clearly say, I want to optimize for open rate and I want to test this email versus this email, or I want to optimize for increasing LTV and I'm going to test 5 emails versus 10 emails. It doesn't really seem like that's the case here. Maybe there's a report that you get later. I'm not sure, but it seems like this is a relatively simple way of just saying like send X number percentage here and Y percentage there. So that's not ideal if that is the case. So yeah, I have kind of mixed feelings about the Omnisend automation builder. On the one hand, I quite like the sort of this canvas that we have, and the options are relatively sort of simple, but it lacks some of the like advanced functionality that I would have expected from something like Omnisend. This would potentially have steered me towards something like Klaviyo, where I think their automation builder is a little bit more advanced, or maybe even ActiveCampaign. If I was using Shopify, I think the integration with Shopify is pretty good with ActiveCampaign, and their automation builder is phenomenal. This just sort of lacks a little bit. But yeah, I do like that it's kind of goal focused. I like that we've got kind of reports around each automation sequence, and we can kind of dive in here, see how it's performing, what revenue it's influencing, and how that kind of splits across different channels. That's quite nice. So we'll leave it there for now for automation and jump into forms. So if you're running an e-commerce site, forms are obviously pretty important. Be able to have exit intent, pop-ups, and discount coupons, that sort of thing. A really kind of quick win in terms of boosting checkout, average checkout. First thing I don't particularly like is I don't really have too many options in terms of different like templates. We can customize it here in this builder, but there's not sort of, it doesn't seem like I've got like a starting point where I can choose between lots of different templates. That said, I do really like some of the options that I've got. things like this Wheel of Fortune is quite fun. I know it's not going to be for everyone, but I can imagine from a conversion perspective that being pretty effective, at least for some sites. But otherwise, it's kind of everything I would sort of expect to see here. I'm just curious about things like, so targeting options, we can target based on URL, we can based on things like out of stock products, which is quite cool. Visibility, so we can set the different devices. We can do it, yeah, so we've got exit intent, we've got scroll depth, we've got time on page, and number of page visits, which I think pretty much covers, in combination with being able to sort of set it to different tags and influence kind of it. I'm thinking more about for kind of return buyers to be able to sort of say only show this to sort of certain type of people. I think that in combination with targeting display options feels pretty good. So we can set a kind of maximum frequency. We can schedule it, so we can run sort of promotions between dates. So yeah, in general, this looks kind of pretty much like what I would expect. As I say, the only thing that's a little bit of a letdown here is I don't have a sort of good range of like themes to start with, and that may be intentional. It may be that Omnisend, want to kind of focus people on a fairly sort of simple design, but I know we've sort of tested some stuff in the past where having quite also, if your branding is quite sort of bold colors with lots of images, it's not to say you can't do that. You obviously can by sort of, customizing it, but yeah, it would be nice to sort of start with a few examples. So I'm just going to update that, which yeah, seems all pretty standard. And then we get a couple of reports. We can see how that's performing here, which is nice. So I'm going to jump into the last section. I think this is probably one of the strongest areas for Omnisend. I think they've done a really, really good job of reporting. Now, part of that is because they have data. A lot of email marketing and automation platforms, the reporting is a bit average because the only data that they have is the performance of your email campaigns. Tools like Omnisend, Klaviyo, HubSpot to an extent have a bit of a competitive advantage because they're connecting into your e-commerce store. They can get the attribution stuff. They can see how the campaigns influence revenue far easier than a platform like Constant Contact would, for example. So it's a little bit of an unfair starting point, but at the same time, some platforms do this really well, others don't do it particularly well. I think Omnisend are pretty good. So first of all, a bit of a dull thing, but I really like that Omnisend have this pretty detailed report on deliverability, particularly if you've got a large list. This gets really, really important, and be able to do things like send a warm up and monitor list hygiene, that sort of stuff is going to be pretty crucial. I believe with Omnisend you can set up a dedicated IP if you need it. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure you can. And then if we look at some of the reports that we've got, so all our campaign reports would be here. We'd get our workflow reports and then the sign-up forms here. So I think it's a bit of a shame that, again, we don't sort of have empty states where we can see how these look. And then the advanced, we need to kind of upgrade to a pay plan to see the advanced reports. But again, from what I've sort of seen of these look really nice. And then, as I mentioned, the dashboard view where we've got that sort of attribution revenue reporting. I'm a big fan of this. I think this not only kind of is quite smart from Omnisend's perspective because it kind of makes the case for using Omnisend. I think it sort of helps all marketers justify the work that they're doing and be able to sort of prove ROI a little bit, with one less spreadsheet anyway. So I'm going to leave it there for today with this setup test of Omnisend. Any questions that you have about Omnisend, feel free to drop them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer as many as possible. I will also drop a link to try out Omnisend below. I'll also drop a link to the Klaviyo review in case you want to kind of compare the two. If you do go through the link in the description, we do earn a small commission, which helps us kind of fund doing all this testing, all the research that we conduct every year. We've ran these annual tests of automation platforms every year since I think 2012. It's a huge amount of work, but we really appreciate it if you are able to use those links. If not, not a problem at all. We'll still keep doing this. But yeah, I hope that was useful. And any questions, feel free to drop us a message.